I will show you tonight why the majority of those who read manifestation books never manifest a single desire. I will reveal to you the fatal errors that keep sincere students trapped in limitation despite knowing the truth. And I will give you the keys to unlock the feeling state that transforms every imagined scene into concrete reality. You have read the words. You understand intellectually that feeling is the secret, yet you remain unchanged. Your circumstances mock your understanding. Your desires remain unfulfilled. You wonder if the law is real or if you are simply deluding yourself with pretty fantasies. Let me tell you plainly, the law is real. Imagination does create reality. But you have been applying the law incorrectly. You have been practicing imagination without the secret ingredient that makes it creative. You have been visualizing without feeling, and visualization without feeling is sterile. I will show you the difference between mere mental imagery and the creative act that reshapes your world. I will reveal why your affirmations feel empty and your visualizations produce no fruit. Most importantly, I will teach you to feel your wish fulfilled until that feeling becomes more real than the evidence of your senses. Tonight, you will discover why the educated mind often fails where the simple heart succeeds. You will understand why trying harder creates more resistance. You will learn the art of assumption that makes manifestation inevitable. The failure is not in the teaching, the failure is in the application. You have been approaching the law as though it were a mechanical process when it is, in truth, an artistic creation requiring the sculptor's feeling touch. Consider the man who desires wealth. He visualizes money in his hands. He imagines luxury around him. He repeats, "I am rich," until the words lose all meaning. Yet he remains poor because he is feeling poor while imagining rich. His inner state contradicts his mental pictures. An inner state always wins. The secret I will share with you tonight is this. You cannot successfully imagine what you do not inwardly accept as possible for yourself. You cannot manifest from a state of longing what requires a state of having. You cannot create through effort what only emerges through being. In the book Feeling is the Secret, you learn that feeling is the creative force, not emotion, not thinking, not mental imagery, but the deep, subjective feeling of being what you desire to be. This feeling impresses itself upon consciousness and hardens into fact. But here is what most miss. This feeling cannot be manufactured. It cannot be forced. It arises naturally when you dare to assume you already are what you wish to become. The assumption creates the feeling, and the feeling creates the fact. You have been trying to feel your way into assumption when you must assume your way into feeling. You have been putting the cart before the horse, and this is why your efforts bear no fruit. I will show you tonight how to reverse this error, how to enter the state of the wish, fulfilled not through strain, but through faith, how to dwell in the reality of your desire until it becomes more natural than your current circumstances. The woman who successfully manifests love does not visualize her ideal partner coming to her. She feels herself already beloved. She assumes the inner state of one who is cherished, and from this state the outer circumstances arrange themselves to match her inner conviction. The man who demonstrates wealth does not imagine money flowing to him. He feels himself to be the man who has wealth. He assumes the consciousness of abundance, and abundance flows to match his assumption. This is the secret within the secret. This is why feeling is not something you do, but something you are. When you truly feel yourself to be what you desire, you have already received it in consciousness. The outer manifestation is merely the delayed reflection of your inner state. But most who read the book treat it as technique rather than truth. They use imagination as a tool rather than recognizing it as the creative power of God within them. They practice visualization as a method rather than understanding it as communion with their divine nature. Tonight this changes. Tonight you will learn to approach imagination, creating your world through the feeling assumption of your desired states. I will show you why your past failures were necessary teachers, why your struggles prepared you for this understanding, why this moment is the perfect time for you to finally master the secret that has eluded you. The reality you desire already exists in imagination. Your task is not to create it, but to select it. And you select it by feeling yourself to be in possession of it now. This feeling is the secret. And tonight you will finally understand how to cultivate it. Let me share with you the story of a woman who came to me years ago, desperate and defeated. She had read the book repeatedly. She could quote every principle, yet her life remained unchanged, and she was beginning to doubt the truth of these teachings. Her name was Margaret, and she had been trying for 2 years to manifest her ideal relationship. She visualized her perfect partner daily. She made lists of his qualities. She even set a place for him at her dinner table. But instead of love, she experienced only deeper loneliness. I've done everything you teach, she told me. I imagine him clearly. I see us together. I feel happy in my visualizations, but nothing happens. Am I doing something wrong? I asked her a simple question. When you imagine this man, how do you feel about yourself? She paused, confused. About myself, I feel hopeful that he'll come. Hope, I replied, is the confession that you do not have. You are feeling the lack of him, not the reality of him. You are visualizing from the state of wanting, not from the state of having. I explained to her that she had been practicing imagination backwards. Instead of feeling herself to be the woman who was loved, she was feeling herself to be the woman who was seeking love. The universe was responding to her true feeling state, loneliness seeking fulfillment, not to her mental images. But how do I feel loved when I'm alone, she asked. You assume you are already beloved, I told her. You don't try to generate the feeling. You simply accept that you are the kind of woman who is deeply cherished. From this assumption, the feeling will arise naturally. I taught her to revise her approach entirely. Instead of visualizing a future partner, she began to assume the identity of a woman who was perfectly matched. Instead of imagining love coming to her, she felt love as her natural state. The shift was subtle but profound. She stopped setting the extra place at dinner because a woman who is loved doesn't need to perform love. She simply is loved. She stopped making lists because a woman who has found her match doesn't need to search. She rests in having found her. Within 3 weeks, something remarkable occurred. A childhood friend reached out after 15 years of silence. They met for coffee and both felt an immediate recognition. 6 months later, they were engaged. But here is the crucial point. Margaret didn't manifest this man. She manifested herself as the woman who was beloved. The man was simply the outer expression of her inner state. I understand now, she told me at their wedding. I wasn't trying to get love. I was learning to be love, and when I became what I sought, it appeared in my world. This is the secret that eludes so many. You don't manifest things or people or circumstances. You manifest states of consciousness, and the things, people, and circumstances arrange themselves to match your state. Let me share another story of a man named Robert who had been struggling with financial limitation for years. He had read every prosperity book, including mine. He visualized wealth daily, affirmed abundance constantly, and even went so far as to carry fake money in his wallet to feel wealthy. Yet his bank account remained stubbornly small. When he came to my lecture, I could see immediately what was wrong. He was trying so hard to feel wealthy that his very effort betrayed his belief in poverty. He was like a man trying to convince himself he was full while his stomach growled with hunger. Stop trying to feel wealthy, I told him. Simply assume you are the kind of man who never worries about money. But I do worry about money, he protested. Then assume you are the kind of man who doesn't. Don't try to stop worrying. Simply inhabit the consciousness of a man who has no need to worry because abundance is his natural state. I explained that wealthy men don't think about being wealthy any more than healthy men think about being healthy. It's simply their natural condition. Robert had been trying to manufacture a feeling of wealth when what he needed was to assume the identity of one for whom wealth was natural. The transformation took time, but it was real. Robert stopped his desperate visualizations and instead began to live from the quiet assumption that he was financially secure. He didn't try to feel abundant, he simply accepted that abundance was his nature. He began making different choices, not forced ones, but natural ones that arose from his new assumption. He invested in himself rather than hoarding. He gave generously rather than clutching tightly. He spoke confidently about his future rather than anxiously about his present. Within 6 months, his income had tripled through a series of opportunities that seemed to appear from nowhere. But Robert understood the truth. They hadn't appeared from nowhere. They had appeared from his changed state of consciousness. I wasn't trying to get rich, he explained to me later. I was learning to be rich in consciousness. And when I truly felt myself to be that kind of man, the world reflected it back to me. These stories illustrate the fundamental principle that most miss. Manifestation is not about getting something you lack. It's about becoming someone who naturally has what you desire. And you become this someone not through effort, but through assumption. The feeling state that creates is not manufactured through visualization or affirmation. It arises naturally when you dare to assume the identity of one who already possesses your desire. Margaret didn't force herself to feel loved. She assumed she was lovable, and the feeling of being loved became natural. Robert didn't strain to feel wealthy. He assumed he was the kind of man who was financially secure, and abundance became his natural expression. This is the secret within feeling is the secret. The feeling is not something you create, it's something you become when you truly accept your desired identity as your true identity. Now, I will explain to you the precise mechanism by which consciousness creates reality and why feeling is the secret ingredient that activates this divine law. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything you see, touch, hear, and experience is consciousness pushed out, made manifest, crystallized into form. But consciousness itself is formless, infinite, and creative. It requires something to give it direction, to focus its infinite potential into specific expression. That something is assumption. When you assume something to be true, you are not hoping it will become true or wishing it were true. Assumption is the acceptance of something as fact regardless of present evidence. And consciousness, being infinitely creative and completely impersonal, must express whatever you assume to be true about yourself and your world. But here is what most do not understand. Assumption without feeling is impotent. It's like planting a seed in dry soil. The seed contains all the potential for growth, but without the moisture of feeling, it remains dormant. Feeling is the water that activates the seed of assumption. When I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion. Emotions are reactions to circumstances. The feeling I speak of is deeper. It is the subjective sense of being. It is what you feel yourself to be in your most private moments when no one else is watching and nothing external is influencing you. This feeling of being is impressed upon the subconscious mind, which is the creative aspect of consciousness. The subconscious cannot reason or argue. It simply accepts what is impressed upon it and works day and night to make it manifest in your experience. If you feel yourself to be limited, the subconscious works to maintain that limitation. If you feel yourself to be abundant, it works to create abundance. If you feel yourself to be loved, it orchestrates experiences of love. If you feel yourself to be alone, it ensures your continued isolation. The subconscious is like fertile soil. It will grow whatever seed you plant in it, whether that seed is wanted or unwanted. It makes no moral judgments. It simply creates what you feel yourself to be. This is why I have always taught that you are not a victim of circumstances, but the creator of them. Every condition in your life is the outpicturing of some feeling state you have maintained. Change the feeling state, and you must change the circumstances. But how do you change a feeling state that seems so fixed, so ingrained, so obviously true based on your present experience? This is where the art of assumption becomes crucial. You do not change feeling directly. You change it indirectly by assuming a new identity and maintaining that assumption until the corresponding feeling state becomes natural. Let me illustrate with a simple example. Suppose you feel yourself to be unsuccessful in your career. This feeling has been reinforced by years of disappointment, rejection, and limitation. You cannot simply decide to feel successful any more than you can decide to feel tall if you are short. But you can assume that you are the type of person who succeeds in everything you undertake. You can persist in this assumption despite all evidence to the contrary. And as you maintain this assumption, something remarkable happens. The feeling of being successful begins to emerge naturally. You don't force this feeling. You don't manufacture it through positive thinking or visualization. You simply live from the assumption that success is your nature, and the feeling follows the assumption as naturally as warmth follows sunlight. This is the secret that the majority miss. They try to change their circumstances while maintaining the same feeling about themselves. They want different results while continuing to feel the same way about who they are. But circumstances are only the shadow cast by consciousness. To change the shadow, you must change what casts it. When you truly assume a new identity, not as wishful thinking, but as accepted fact, your entire inner world begins to reorganize itself around this new assumption. Your thoughts change, your words change, your actions change, and most importantly, your feeling state changes. And when your feeling state changes, your outer world must change to match it. This is not speculation or theory. This is law, as precise and reliable as the law of gravity. I have seen this demonstrated thousands of times in thousands of lives. The woman who assumes she is happily married finds herself married. The man who assumes he is financially free demonstrates freedom. The student who assumes academic success achieves it, not through struggle or effort, but through the natural outworking of their assumed state. But understand this clearly. The assumption must be maintained regardless of present evidence. This is where most fail. They assume for a day, a week, perhaps a month. But when immediate results don't appear, they revert to their old assumptions and wonder why the law doesn't work. The law is always working. It is always reflecting your persistent assumptions back to you as experience. If you assume poverty one day and wealth the next, the law reflects your confusion as confused circumstances. If you assume love in the morning and loneliness at night, the law gives you unstable relationships. Consistency of assumption is the key to successful manifestation. You must assume your desired state and persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. This requires what I call loyal faith, faith that remains constant regardless of appearances. This is why feeling is the secret. Feeling is the proof that your assumption has taken root in consciousness. When you can feel yourself to be what you have assumed, you know the work is done. The outer manifestation may take time to appear, but the real creation has already occurred in consciousness. Let me explain the precise process. First, you identify what you wish to experience, not what you want to get, but what you wish to be. If you desire wealth, you identify with being a wealthy person. If you desire love, you identify with being a beloved person. If you desire health, you identify with being a healthy person. Second, you assume this identity to be your true identity now. Not in the future, not when certain conditions are met, but now, in this moment, regardless of present circumstances. Third, You persist in this assumption through all contradictory evidence. When the senses say you are not what you have assumed yourself to be, you remain loyal to your assumption. When others doubt or criticize, you hold steady. When circumstances seem to confirm your old identity, you refuse to accept that confirmation. Fourth, you maintain this assumption until the corresponding feeling state becomes natural. At first, assuming your desired identity may feel strange or forced. But as you persist, it begins to feel more natural, more like the real you. When this happens, you know the assumption has impressed itself upon consciousness. Finally, you simply live from this new feeling state, allowing it to express itself naturally in your thoughts, words, and actions. You don't force or strain. You simply be what you have assumed yourself to be, and let the law take care of the how and when of manifestation. This process requires no special ability, no particular background, no unique circumstances. It requires only the willingness to accept that you are more than your present limitations suggest, and the persistence to maintain that acceptance until it becomes your natural state. The reason most fail after reading manifestation books like Feeling is the Secret is that they treat it as a technique rather than a revelation of their true nature. They use imagination as a tool to get things rather than recognizing it as the creative power of God operating through them. You are not a human being learning to use a spiritual law. You are a spiritual being expressing through human form, and creation is your natural function. When you truly understand this, manifestation becomes not something you do, but something you are. The feeling state that creates is not separate from you. It is you at a deeper level than your present self-concept allows you to recognize. When you feel yourself to be what you desire to be, you are not pretending or visualizing, you are awakening to a dimension of yourself that already exists in consciousness. This is why I say that imagination creates reality. Imagination is not fantasy or make-believe, it is your divine creative faculty, and when activated by the feeling of your wish fulfilled, it literally creates the conditions, circumstances, and events that match your assumption. The secret of feeling is that it bridges the gap between invisible assumption and visible manifestation. It is the creative medium through which consciousness expresses itself as form. Master the art of feeling yourself to be what you wish to be, and you master the art of creation itself. Now I will teach you how to enter the state of the wish fulfilled and dwell there until it becomes more real than your present circumstances. Most of you approach imagination as though you were watching a movie. You see yourself in scenes, observe yourself having what you want, witness yourself being successful. But this observational approach keeps you separate from your desire. You remain the watcher rather than becoming the participant. To truly feel the wish fulfilled, you must move from observation to participation. You must stop watching yourself have your desire and start being yourself having your desire. Let me guide you through this transformation. First, choose what you wish to experience. Make it specific and personal. Not, I want money, but I am financially free. Not, I want love, but I am happily married. Not, I want success, but I am accomplished in my field. Now, instead of imagining this state as something future or external, you must assume it as your present reality. This requires a fundamental shift in perspective. Close your eyes and go within, but do not go within to visualize or to see pictures. Go within to be, to feel, to assume the identity of one who already possesses your desire. If your desire is financial freedom, do not imagine money coming to you. Instead, feel yourself to be the type of person who never worries about money. How does such a person feel in their body? What is their inner dialogue? How do they carry themselves? What is their relationship to financial decisions? Inhabit this identity completely. Don't think about being financially free. Be financially free in consciousness. Feel the quiet confidence of someone who has more than enough. Feel the generous spirit of someone who can give freely. Feel the peace of mind of someone who sleeps soundly without financial worry. This feeling is not something you create through effort. It emerges naturally when you dare to assume the identity fully. Like putting on a perfectly fitted garment, when you truly accept this new identity, the corresponding feeling state wraps around you effortlessly. If your desire is love, do not imagine your perfect partner. Instead, feel yourself to be the type of person who is deeply cherished. How does it feel in your body to be completely accepted? What is it like to know that someone finds you irresistible? How does it feel to wake up each morning knowing you are somebody's favorite person? Don't strain to manufacture these feelings. Simply assume they are true of you now, and let the feelings arise from the assumption. When you truly accept that you are beloved, the feeling of being beloved becomes as natural as breathing. If your desire is health, do not visualize your body healing. Instead, feel yourself to be radically healthy. What is it like to have boundless energy? How does perfect health feel in your muscles, your organs, your very cells? What is the inner experience of someone whose body serves them perfectly? Assume this perfect health to be your natural state and feel how good it feels to inhabit a body that functions flawlessly. Don't think about getting healthy, be healthy in consciousness. The secret is this: you must feel yourself into the new state rather than think yourself into it. Thinking keeps you in the realm of future possibility. Feeling brings you into present reality. As you practice this assumption, you may notice resistance. Your logical mind will object. Your senses will contradict. Your circumstances will seem to prove your assumption false. This is natural and expected. Do not fight this resistance, simply ignore it. When doubt arises, do not argue with it. Simply return to your assumption. When evidence contradicts your new identity, refuse to accept that evidence as final. When others question your transformation, remember that they are responding to the old you, not the new you that exists in consciousness. The art is in the persistence. Anyone can assume a new identity for a moment. The master learns to maintain that assumption until it becomes their natural state of being. Practice this assumption daily, not as a ritual or technique, but as a return to your true nature. Each time you close your eyes and feel yourself to be what you wish to be, you are not pretending, you are remembering, you are awakening to a dimension of yourself that has always existed but has been overshadowed by limited self-concepts. As you persist in this practice, you will notice subtle changes beginning to occur. Your posture may improve as you embody confidence. Your speech may become more certain as you feel secure in your identity. Your choices may shift as you naturally select options that align with your assumed state. These changes are not the result of willpower or effort. They are the natural expression of your new assumption working itself out through your personality. As within, so without. As you change in consciousness, you must change in expression. Most importantly, you will begin to feel different about yourself. The old feelings of limitation, lack, or loneliness will start to fade. In their place, feelings of abundance, completeness, and satisfaction will emerge. This is not because you are trying to feel different, it's because you are becoming different. When this inner shift occurs, when your new assumption feels more natural than your old one, you know the work is complete. The outer manifestation may still be on its way, but the real creation has occurred in consciousness. From this point forward, you simply live as the person you have assumed yourself to be. You don't maintain the assumption through effort. You express it through naturalness. You don't hold on to your new identity. You rest in it. This is the state of the wish fulfilled, not a desperate grasping for something external, but a peaceful dwelling in something internal, not the frantic energy of wanting, but the quiet confidence of having, not the anxiety of seeking, but the satisfaction of finding. When you reach this state, manifestation becomes inevitable. The outer world has no choice but to reflect your inner conviction. People, circumstances, and opportunities will arrange themselves to match your assumed identity because the law of consciousness demands perfect correspondence between inner state and outer experience. But remember, you are not doing this to get something. You are doing this to become someone. And when you truly become who you wish to be in consciousness, having what you wish to have becomes as natural as breathing. The state of the wish fulfilled is not a temporary vacation from reality. It is your awakening to a deeper reality. It is not an escape from who you are. It is a discovery of who you truly are beneath the layers of limitation you have accepted. Enter this state not with effort but with ease, not with struggle but with surrender, not with desperation but with devotion, and dwell there until dwelling becomes being, and being becomes your natural expression of the infinite creative power that you are. Now I must address the greatest enemy of manifestation, resistance. Not external resistance, but the internal resistance that arises when you dare to assume something greater than your present circumstances suggest is possible. Every sincere student encounters this resistance. It appears as doubt when you try to maintain your assumption. It manifests as fear when you contemplate actually receiving your desire. It expresses itself as the voice that says, "This is too good to be true," or "Who am I to have this?" or "This could never happen to someone like me." Understand this. Resistance is not your enemy. It is the voice of your old self-concept fighting for its survival. Every assumption you have maintained about yourself, whether positive or negative, has become part of your identity. When you attempt to assume a new identity, the old one naturally resists, because change feels like death to it. The man who has seen himself as poor for 20 years will experience intense resistance when he begins to assume wealth. The woman who has accepted loneliness as her lot will feel fear when she starts to assume love. The person who has identified with illness will face doubt when assuming perfect health. This resistance is not evidence that you are on the wrong path. It is evidence that you are on the right path, but challenging deep-seated patterns of self-limitation. The key to dissolving resistance is understanding its nature. Resistance is not based on truth. It is based on familiarity. Your old self-concept feels true not because it is true, but because it is familiar. You have practiced it so long that it seems like the only reality possible for you, but familiarity is not truth. Just because you have thought of yourself as limited for years does not make limitation your true nature. Just because you have accepted lack as normal does not make abundance impossible for you. Just because you have felt unworthy does not mean you are actually unworthy. The truth is that you are infinite consciousness, temporarily expressing through finite form. Your true nature is unlimited, creative, and abundant. Any assumption that contradicts this truth is false, no matter how familiar it may feel. When resistance arises, do not fight it. Fighting resistance gives it energy and makes it stronger. Instead, simply acknowledge it and return to your assumption. Say to yourself, "There is the old pattern trying to reassert itself, but I am no longer that person. I am who I have assumed myself to be." The key is gentle persistence, not violent effort. You dissolve resistance the way the sun dissolves morning mist, not by attacking it, but by shining steadily until it naturally disappears. Let me share with you the specific forms resistance takes and how to handle each one. The resistance of logic will tell you that your assumption is unrealistic. Be practical, it says. Look at the facts. Consider your limitations. When this voice speaks, remind yourself that logic is based on past experience, but you are creating new experience. The facts it cites are the shadows of old assumptions, not the truth of your new identity. The resistance of unworthiness will whisper that you don't deserve what you're assuming. Someone like you doesn't get to have this. It suggests you haven't earned it. When this voice arises, remember that worthiness is not earned, it is recognized. You are worthy not because of what you have done, but because of what you are. consciousness itself expressing as you. The resistance of fear will paint pictures of what could go wrong if you actually receive your desire. What if you can't handle it, it asks. What if you lose it once you get it? When fear speaks, remind yourself that the consciousness that can assume also has the power to maintain. The same creative force that manifests your desire will guide you in its enjoyment. The resistance of time will insist that change takes forever. You've been this way for so long, it argues. How can you expect to change now? When this resistance appears, remember that consciousness knows no time. In the realm of imagination, transformation is instantaneous. The delay in manifestation is only the time it takes for your new assumption to impress itself deeply enough to overcome the momentum of the old pattern. The resistance of others will come through well-meaning friends and family who remind you of who you really are. They will unconsciously try to keep you in the box they have built around their perception of you. When this happens, understand that they are not seeing you. They are seeing their idea of you. They cannot perceive your transformed consciousness because they are still relating to your old expression. The most insidious resistance is the resistance of evidence. Your senses will continually show you proof that your assumption is false. Your bank account will display the same small numbers. Your body will exhibit the same symptoms. Your social situation will appear unchanged. This sensory evidence will seem to mock your inner assumption. But remember this, the senses only report what has already been created by past assumptions. They are showing you the fruit of yesterday's consciousness, not today's. When you assume something new, there is always a time lag between the inner change and the outer reflection. The senses cannot see what consciousness is creating now. They can only display what consciousness created then. This is why faith is essential. Faith is not believing something that might be true. Faith is knowing something is true despite present evidence to the contrary. When you maintain your assumption despite contradictory evidence, you are exercising faith. And faith is the bridge between invisible assumption and visible manifestation. The secret to dissolving all resistance is this: do not resist resistance. When doubt arises, do not doubt the doubt. When fear appears, do not fear the fear. When evidence contradicts, do not argue with the evidence. Simply return to your assumption. Think of your assumption as a radio station broadcasting your new identity. Resistance is like static trying to interfere with the signal. You don't eliminate static by fighting it. You eliminate it by turning up the volume of your station until it drowns out the interference. Turn up the volume of your assumption. Feel more deeply into your new identity. Dwell more completely in the state of the wish fulfilled. The more vividly you feel yourself to be what you have assumed, the quieter the resistance becomes. As you persist in this practice, you will notice that resistance gradually weakens. The old patterns lose their grip as the new patterns strengthen. What once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. What once seemed foreign starts to feel familiar. Eventually, you reach a point where your new assumption feels more natural than your old one. When this happens, resistance disappears completely because there is no longer an old self-concept to resist. You have successfully transformed your identity, and your reality must transform to match. This process requires patience with yourself. Be kind to the part of you that resists change. It is only trying to protect you in the way it knows how. But also be firm in your commitment to your new assumption. Resistance is temporary, but the fruits of successful assumption are permanent. Remember, every master of manifestation has faced resistance. Every person who has successfully transformed their life has walked through the valley of doubt. You are not alone in this experience, and you're not weak for having it. You're simply human, undergoing the natural process of consciousness expansion. Trust the process. Persist in your assumption. Be patient with resistance and firm with your identity. And watch as your inner transformation gradually but inevitably expresses itself as outer transformation. You cannot fake this bodily expression of consciousness, but you can allow it to emerge naturally from your assumption. Stand as the person you have assumed yourself to be. Move through the world as though you already possess what you desire. Let your physical presence reflect your inner conviction. Fourth, expand your assumption into your decision-making patterns. Every choice you make either reinforces or contradicts your assumed identity. The person who assumes wealth makes different financial decisions than the person who assumes poverty. The person who assumes health makes different lifestyle choices than the person who assumes sickness. Begin making decisions from your assumed state rather than your current circumstances. This does not mean being foolish or irresponsible. It means choosing from the perspective of who you are becoming rather than who you have been. If you assume abundance, choose the better quality option when practical. If you assume health, choose foods and activities that align with vibrant wellness. If you assume love, treat yourself with the care you would give to someone deeply cherished. These choices should feel natural, not forced. They arise spontaneously when your assumption is genuine. You are not trying to prove your assumption through your choices. You are expressing your assumption through them. Fifth, expand your assumption into your relationships with others. People will naturally respond to your consciousness, not your words. When you truly inhabit a new identity, others sense it energetically before you ever speak it verbally. The person who assumes success naturally commands respect. The person who assumes love naturally attracts affection. The person who assumes health naturally inspires others to seek wellness. You do not need to announce your transformation or convince others of your new identity. Simply be that identity consistently and watch how relationships shift to accommodate your new state of consciousness. Some people will celebrate your transformation. Others may resist it because it challenges their fixed ideas about you. Do not take this resistance personally. They are not responding to you. They are responding to the threat your change poses to their own limiting beliefs about what is possible. Maintain your assumption regardless of others' reactions. Your consistency will eventually win over even the most skeptical observers. When they see the fruits of your transformed consciousness, they will have no choice but to acknowledge the reality of your change. Sixth, expand your assumption into your relationship with time. Most people live in psychological time, rehearsing the past and anticipating the future while missing the creative power of the present moment. The person who has mastered assumption lives in eternal now. They do not wait for their desire to manifest tomorrow. They know it is fulfilled today in consciousness. They do not regret yesterday's limitations. They understand that consciousness creates continuously and can create anew in every moment. This shift in temporal awareness is crucial for successful manifestation. When you truly live from your assumed state in the present moment, you stop pushing your desire into the future. You stop making it conditional on external circumstances. You simply rest in the reality of having it now. Time becomes your ally rather than your enemy. Instead of wondering when your desire will manifest, you know it is already manifesting through every moment of maintained assumption. Instead of fearing delays, you trust the perfect timing of consciousness expressing itself in form. As you practice this immersive expansion, you may notice that maintaining your assumption becomes increasingly effortless. What once required conscious effort begins to happen automatically. Your new identity starts to feel more natural than your old one. This is the sign that your assumption has successfully impressed itself upon the subconscious mind. The creative forces of consciousness are now working to express your assumed state in every area of your life. You will begin to notice synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seem to support your new reality. Opportunities will appear that align perfectly with your assumed identity. People will say exactly what you need to hear. Resources will become available just when you need them. These are not accidents. They are the natural expression of consciousness arranging itself to match your persistent assumption. The universe is not conspiring in your favor. You are the universe, and you are creating the conditions that express your assumed state. The key during this phase is to remain faithful to your assumption even as external evidence begins to shift. Do not let early signs of change make you doubt the process. Do not become so excited by small manifestations that you lose focus on your primary assumption. Stay centered in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let the external changes unfold naturally without attachment to specific timing or form. Your job is to maintain the consciousness. The law will take care of the manifestation. Remember that immersive expansion is not a destination, but a way of being. You do not expand your assumption until you can check it off a list and move on to something else. You expand it because this is what it means to live consciously, to be aware of your divine creative power, and to take responsibility for the reality you are continuously creating. As your assumption becomes more natural and pervasive, you will discover something profound. You are not trying to get something external to make you feel complete. You already feel complete because you have learned to dwell in the consciousness of completion. The external manifestation is simply the inevitable reflection of your inner wholeness. This is the secret that transforms students into masters. When you no longer need your desire to appear in order to feel fulfilled, it must appear because there is no resistance to block its manifestation. When you are not grasping for your good flows to you effortlessly. Live in this expanded assumption until it becomes as natural as breathing, until choosing from abundance feels more comfortable than choosing from lack, until responding with love feels more automatic than reacting with fear, until dwelling in success feels more familiar than struggling with limitation. This is your destiny, not as something you must earn or achieve, but as something you must recognize and claim. You are already the consciousness that creates. You are already the power that manifests. You need only to expand your assumption of yourself until it encompasses the fullness of what you truly are. Now we reach the sacred threshold. You have learned the principles. You understand the process. You know how to assume and expand and persist. But knowledge alone will never birth a single manifestation. Between understanding and demonstration lies the bridge of feeling, and upon this bridge your entire destiny rests. I am not speaking of emotion, though emotion may accompany what I describe. I am not speaking of excitement, though you may feel excited when the truth dawns upon you. I am speaking of that deep, subjective sense of being that is the very essence of consciousness itself. This feeling is not something you manufacture. It is something you surrender to. It is not something you create through effort. It is something you allow through acceptance. For this feeling is your true nature expressing itself when you stop resisting what you really are. You are not a limited being trying to expand. You are infinite consciousness appearing to be limited through false assumption. When you assume your true nature, abundant, loved, whole, successful, the feeling of these states arises naturally because they are what you actually are beneath the layers of learned limitation. But you must invite this feeling. You must make space for it. You must stop the mental chatter and emotional reactivity long enough to feel the profound peace of knowing who you really are. Close your eyes now as you listen to my words, not to visualize, not to imagine scenes, but to feel, to descend beneath the surface noise of thought and touch the stillness where your true power resides. Feel yourself sinking into the depths of your own being, past the worries about tomorrow, past the regrets about yesterday, past the judgments about your current circumstances. Down into the eternal now, where all possibilities exist simultaneously. In this space, you are already everything you have ever wanted to be, not as potential, but as reality, not as possibility, but as actuality. You are successful here. You are loved here. You are abundant here. You are whole here. Do not try to convince yourself this is true. Simply feel into the truth of it. Let your consciousness expand to encompass the reality of your fulfilled desires. Breathe into the knowledge that you are already complete. If your desire is wealth, Feel the deep security of one who has never known want. Not the excitement of suddenly becoming rich, but the quiet confidence of one who has always been provided for. Feel how it rests in your bones, this knowing that abundance is your birthright. Feel how it softens your breathing, how it relaxes your shoulders, how it brings a smile to your inner being. If your desire is love, feel the profound contentment of one who is perfectly matched, not the relief of no longer being alone, but the deep satisfaction of one who has always belonged. Feel how this love wraps around your heart like a warm embrace. Feel how it fills the empty spaces you thought could never be filled. Feel how it makes you radiant from within. If your desire is health, feel the vibrant aliveness of perfect physical function, not the absence of symptoms, but the presence of extraordinary vitality. Feel energy coursing through every cell of your body. Feel your organs working in perfect harmony. Feel your very DNA singing with life and renewal. If your desire is success in your work, feel the deep fulfillment of one whose gifts are fully expressed and recognized, not the striving for achievement, but the satisfaction of meaningful contribution. Feel the respect of your peers, the gratitude of those you serve, the joy of doing what you were born to do. Whatever your desire, stop trying to feel it and start being it. Stop reaching for the feeling and start resting in it. Stop generating it through effort and start recognizing it as your natural state. This feeling is not dependent on external circumstances. It exists independently of what your senses report. It is the feeling of your true self, temporarily veiled by false assumptions, but never actually lost or damaged. When you touch this feeling, even for a moment, you know beyond doubt that your desire is already fulfilled. You do not believe it or hope it or wish it. You know it with the same certainty that you know your own name. This knowing is the end of seeking. This feeling is the end of effort. For when you truly feel yourself to be what you desire to be, there is nothing left to do but let the outer world rearrange itself to match your inner conviction. But you must return to this feeling again and again, not because you lose it, but because you forget it. Not because it goes away, but because you get distracted by appearances that contradict it. Make appointments with this feeling. Set aside time each day to descend into the depth of your being and touch the place where all your desires are already fulfilled. Not to make something happen, but to remember what has already happened in consciousness. Morning and evening, return to this inner sanctuary. Feel your way into the state of the wish fulfilled. Rest there, breathe there, be there. Let this feeling impression itself so deeply into your consciousness that it becomes more real than what your eyes see or your ears hear. During the day, when circumstances challenge your assumption, do not fight them. Simply return to the feeling. Close your eyes for a moment and remember who you really are. Feel again the reality of your fulfilled desire. Let this feeling restore your faith in what consciousness has already accomplished. At night before sleep, surrender to this feeling completely. Let it be the last thing you experience before you lose consciousness. Program your subconscious mind with the feeling of fulfillment so that even in sleep you are dwelling in the state of your answered prayer. Upon waking, before you engage with the world of effects, return to the feeling. Let it be the first thing you experience each day. Start from fulfillment rather than lack, from having rather than wanting, from being rather than becoming. As you persist in this practice, something miraculous begins to happen. The feeling becomes more familiar than the circumstances that seem to contradict it. Your inner state of fulfillment becomes more real than your outer state of apparent limitation. When this shift occurs, manifestation becomes inevitable. The outer world has no choice but to conform to your inner conviction. People, circumstances, and opportunities will arrange themselves to validate what you feel yourself to be. But remember, you are not doing this to get something. You are doing this to become someone. And when you become someone new in consciousness, having what that someone naturally has becomes as automatic as breathing. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not a technique you practice. It is a state you inhabit. It is not something you do occasionally. It is who you are constantly. When you realize this, when you feel this, when you live this, your entire reality must shift to reflect your transformed identity. Feel your way into this truth now. Stop listening with your mind and start feeling with your heart. Let every word I have spoken dissolve into the direct experience of being what you desire to be. Rest in this feeling. Dwell in this feeling. Be this feeling until being becomes having, and having becomes your natural expression of the infinite creative power that you are. We have reached the end of our time together, but we have only begun to touch the beginning of your true power. What I have shared with you tonight is not theory or philosophy. It is the fundamental law by which all creation operates. It is the secret hidden in plain sight within every sacred text ever written. You will leave this place different than you came. The knowledge you have received cannot be unknown. The understanding you have gained cannot be lost. The feeling you have touched cannot be forgotten, though you may temporarily lose awareness of it. But with this knowledge comes responsibility. You now know that every circumstance in your life is the direct result of some assumption you have maintained about yourself. You can no longer claim to be a victim of external forces. You can no longer blame others for your limitations. You can no longer pretend that life happens to you rather than through you. You are the author of your experience. You are the creator of your world. You are the consciousness from which all your circumstances arise. This is both your tremendous power and your absolute responsibility. From this moment forward, every day you remain unchanged is a day you choose limitation over liberation. Every hour you spend in old assumptions is an hour you deny your divine nature. Every moment you feel yourself to be less than whole is a moment you reject the fullness that is your birthright. But I am not speaking to condemn you. I am speaking to liberate you. For now you know that change is not only possible, but inevitable when you apply what you have learned with persistence and faith. The next 90 days will prove the truth of everything I have told you tonight. Not in some distant future, not in perfect conditions, not when you finally figure everything out, but now, in your present circumstances, with your current resources, exactly as you are. You will assume the identity of one who already possesses your desire. You will feel yourself into this new state until it becomes more natural than your old one. You will persist in this assumption despite all contrary evidence. And you will watch in wonder as your outer world transforms to match your inner conviction. Some of you will experience rapid changes. Within days or weeks, you will see clear evidence that consciousness is reshaping your reality. Do not let early success make you careless. Continue dwelling in the state that created the change. Others will experience what seems like delays. External circumstances may appear to worsen before they improve. Do not let apparent setbacks discourage you. This is often consciousness clearing away old patterns to make room for the new. The greater the desired change, the more thoroughly the old must be dissolved. Trust the process. Trust the law. Trust yourself. You are not hoping something might work. You are applying a principle as reliable as gravity itself. What you persist in assuming must harden into fact. This is not belief. This is knowledge. But you must do the work. Knowledge without application is worthless. Understanding without practice is meaningless. You must assume, you must feel, you must persist. No one else can do this for you, and nothing else will produce the results you seek. Do not make the error of trying once and giving up. Do not fall into the trap of testing the law to see if it works. The law is always working. It has never stopped working. It is working right now to manifest whatever you persistently assume about yourself. If you assume limitation, you will experience limitation. If you assume abundance, you will experience abundance. If you assume love, you will experience love. If you assume health, you will experience health. The law makes no exceptions. It shows no favoritism. It responds only to consciousness. You are consciousness. You are the very power by which worlds are created and destroyed. You are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are that force, individualized and expressing through the unique form you call yourself. When you truly understand this, when you feel this, when you live from this knowledge, manifestation becomes as natural as breathing. You do not struggle to make things happen. You simply assume they have happened, feel the reality of their fulfillment, and watch as the outer world conforms to your inner conviction. This is your destiny, not as something you must earn through good behavior or hard work, but as something you must claim through bold assumption and persistent faith. You are destined to demonstrate the creative power of consciousness, because that is what you are, consciousness in creative expression. The world needs you to succeed. It needs you to prove that limitation is not the final word. It needs you to demonstrate that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things when they understand and apply the law of consciousness. Your transformation will inspire others who feel trapped by circumstances beyond their control. Your demonstration will give hope to those who have accepted limitation as their lot. Your success will prove that the power to change lives resides within consciousness itself, available to anyone willing to assume their desired identity and persist in that assumption. Do not hide your light under a bushel. Do not minimize your victories. Do not apologize for your good fortune. When you manifest your desires, celebrate them as proof of the law in operation. Share your understanding with others who are ready to hear it. Become a living example of what is possible when human consciousness aligns with divine truth. But remember, you are not changing the law. You are not creating something new. You are simply allowing what has always been true to express itself in your experience. You are removing the barriers of false assumption and limited thinking that have kept your good from manifesting. Your desires already exist in consciousness. Your ideal life is already real in the realm of imagination. Your perfect self is already perfectly complete in the infinite field of possibility. Your only task is to select from this infinite menu by assuming the identity of one who already possesses what you desire. This selection is made through feeling, not through thinking, not through wanting, not through trying, but through feeling yourself to be what you desire to be until that feeling becomes more real than present circumstances. When you can feel yourself successful while appearing to fail, you have mastered the law. When you can feel yourself loved while appearing to be alone, you have transcended appearances. When you can feel yourself abundant while your bank account suggests otherwise, you have learned to live by faith rather than sight. This is the secret I have shared with you tonight. This is the truth that will set you free from every limitation you have ever accepted. This is the power that will transform your life from ordinary to extraordinary, from limited to limitless, from human to divine. You are already that which you seek. You need not become it. You need only recognize it. You need not achieve it. You need only assume it. You need not earn it. You need only feel it. Go now and prove these truths in your own experience. Take what I have given you and make it your own. Apply these principles with unwavering faith and persistent assumption. And in 90 days, you will return to these words not as a student seeking knowledge, but as a master demonstrating power. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The pearl of great price is your own consciousness. The treasure you seek is the recognition of who you really are. You are not a wave trying to become the ocean. You are the ocean temporarily appearing as a wave. Remember this, feel this, live this, and watch as your world transforms to reflect the magnitude of what you truly are. Return to this video as often as you breathe. Let it anchor you in the end. Let it dissolve the old story. Let it rewire your identity with each listen again and again, morning or night, in stillness or motion, until every word feels like your own memory, until the feeling is no longer imagined but lived, until love is no longer something you wait for, but something you walk in. And if doubt arises, return. If fear stirs, return. If nothing seems to change, return. Not to force the outcome, but to remind yourself of who you truly are. The one who is already loved, already chosen, already living the life you once only dreamed of, until the inner truth becomes the outer fact, and your perfect partner appears without effort, because you no longer hope. You know, it is finished.